Hey guys, so we have to talk about the Campi Flegrei, the Vesuvius, and the Strongoli volcanoes in Italy again, because there is some unrest and it is a bit concerning about what's happening. Maybe you have seen my last video that the researchers are worried about Vesuvius and the Campi Flegrei in Italy. Vesuvius is kind of calm right now, but massively overdue with an eruption. So looking back at history, it has erupted on a regular basis and now it has been silent for so long. And Campi Flegrei shows signs of magma moving and coming towards the surface. And we will get deeper into this because we just had an earthquake swarm in that area, and we'll talk about what that means. And you have to understand there's Naples, that's a major city of like more than 3 million people living there. And then we have the fishing town of Pozzuli, that's roughly in that area 500,000 people. And basically all these people, these little towns and Naples, they're squeezed in by the volcanoes. The volcanoes have them clamped, right? And so should there be an eruption or should there be two eruptions, it could be very, very bad, because you have to imagine you have to do an evacuation of the whole area. And then there comes panic, and then there comes ash clouds or something like this. This is very dire. And for those of you who live in North America, it is a different grid and net of streets and roads in Germany, and especially Italy, in like the older towns and cities. It's in the US, it's like usually you have a grid, like roads go north south and avenues go east west or vice versa, but it is like a grid with rectangles or squares. So usually it is easier to get out there, because like the European cities that have been grown and changed over so many decades, centuries, the roads are partly narrow because there's so many historic old buildings. So it's not that we have like many major interstates or highways that go throughout the city with huge crossings, and it's more like winding roads, and here's a road and there's a road. So it's not that symmetrical geometric grid that we have here. So that's why it is already difficult. There's basically one major highway that leads through that area, and that highway is already like clogged at normal rush hour. So let's imagine a panic evacuation and everyone is trying to go to that road. It has shown in the past that usually then the main roads are clogged and the cars are standing, people have to walk. We have seen this even just recently in the Ukraine, when people wanted to get out of Kiev when the bombs started coming. So it was clogged, right? So this is really not easy. And there is something else that makes it even harder: the earthquakes. Because usually before a volcanic eruption starts, we will see earthquakes. And these earthquakes can damage valuable, like critical infrastructure that you would need to get out of these areas as fast as possible. And the problem with the Naples area and these areas, I don't know if you've ever been there, but if you drive through there, these old, partly narrow, winding roads, there's a lot of older buildings, very old historical buildings that are not built to any modern earthquakes codes. They're just like brick and mortar buildings, very old. And if there's earthquakes, if there's larger earthquakes, these buildings could collapse, they could fall on the roads. The roads are old, the bridges are crumbling. There is some crumbling infrastructure in that area. So if you drove there recently, it's not that great, right? So imagine there's a shakeup and there's cracks in the roads, and even worse, like bridges collapse and buildings flap on the road, and then people want to drive out there, they get stuck there, they're trying to turn around. So it is painting a little bit of a grim picture. And what we hear from that area, and especially the town of Pozzuli right now, is that the people who live there, you know, they're most afraid of one thing, and that is not a supervolcano erupting or the Vesuvius like going nuts again, like when it destroyed the whole city of Pompeii. No, they are worried about a potential evacuation. They're really, really stressed out because they're afraid, because they know what this would mean, and they're more afraid of the evacuation than of any eruption. And it is really documented that the number of like medication to like anti-anxiety drugs is increasing. So people are taking more of these drugs because they're afraid of what's going to happen. And, you know, it's easy to say for us living in other countries, well, why do you live on the edge of a volcano or even on the volcano, like in the Campi Flegrei? They're really living at the edge of the caldera because it's such a fertile area. How can you live there? So many people there are not wealthy at all. They're quite poor. So what's their choice? You know, they can just say, well, what the heck, I abandon my current house and I'll buy something somewhere else and I move. They can't. They can't even, you know, pay rent somewhere else. So these are old grown cities. They have inherited these homes partly. You know, they're bound to that, and they just can't, you know, it's probably hard to find a buyer that gives you enough money as well. So who knows, but a lot of families, they just can't move. And that's a problem, especially in the smaller towns and the closer to the caldera you get. Of course, there's wealthy people in Naples that can move. But this is a major city. Imagine a major city in North America and you need to move that. I mean, Seattle, think about Seattle, think about San Francisco or stuff like this. So this is not so easy. I mean, we know if you follow my channel, Grindavik, it's just a little fishing town in Iceland, but it has been crippled and destroyed significantly by earthquakes that were happening before an actual volcanic eruption. They even had a lava flow right into town. But the danger that is there is the underground magma tunnel system and fissures that might lead to a collapse. And by the way, I've just talked with one of my viewers about a movie that I just watched 2 days ago. It's they have it on Netflix. It's called The Abyss. I mean, it's not volcanic or like related to earthquakes and sort of thing, but it's a little Swedish town and they have a big mining operation going on there. And basically, because of all these underground tunnels, the town gets brittle underneath and then it collapses. Buildings are sinking and falling over. And of course, when I watched this video, I had to think about Grindavik because of all these tunnel systems that are in that town. So if you're interested in this, check out my playlist. I have an Iceland playlist on my channel and I'll put one in the end screen as well. So these are really scary, scary stories. I mean, let's hope that nothing bad happens. But, you know, history shows us that these volcanoes in Italy, they have erupted and they will erupt again. And the biggest threat, in my opinion, is how to get out, how to deal with that old infrastructure and with the narrow roads and with the winding roads and grids that lead to the major roads or to the bigger roads. You already have a problem to get to the major highway driving these winding roads. Like I said, if you've been in Italy, this is what makes it so stunningly beautiful. But if even for European measures, if you drive an SUV or something like that, in some roads when you have to turn or they go uphill, you're having a problem, right? And you know, SUVs are small in Europe compared to North America with the big trucks or the big SUVs, the big long SUVs. You know, you have to think about maybe a big SUV in Europe is like a Grand Cherokee Jeep in the US, and not like the big Ford trucks, Ram trucks, and or even the 4- and 6-seater big SUV, large SUVs. So it is narrow. You couldn't even have these cars in a lot of smaller Italian towns and cities. So this is what I worry a lot about when I think about Italy and how squeezed they are by these volcanoes. So some people say, well, can't we just have boats ready? Lots of evacuation boats to get the people out like this. Yeah, there are ports, but that also takes time. But, you know, maybe it is another option. But then you also have to kind of have a system in mind who is going where, because if there's panic, people need to know, okay, I'm on list to go to the port, to go on a boat, and then I'm on the list to go out by car to the major highway. But then what happens if it's clogged? Then people will turn around, they start running towards the port, and then there's chaos. So the government has said that they're working heavily on a new evacuation plan for the greater Naples area, for the main areas that would need to be evacuated should there be an eruption of the Campi Flegrei. I mean, the best well-known volcanoes that everyone knows in Italy is probably Vesuvius and Etna, because they erupt on a more regular base than Campi Flegrei. But Campi Flegrei is the thing that can really cause, if it fully erupts, an eruption that can influence the whole world, with the ash clouds covering the sun, causing, they called it like mini ice age in the past, when the sun was basically blocked by the big ash cloud, and then growing food, everything, there's ashes. So researchers worry that these volcanoes are ripe for an eruption. Overall, Italy, together with Greece, is one of the most geologically active regions in whole Europe. And 3 of these volcanoes in Italy are currently drawing attention. And that is Stromboli, Vesuvius, and probably, as I said, the most unknown, the Phlegraean Fields in Italian Campi Flegrei. And that's why these volcanoes basically characterize the area around Naples. It is really quiet at Vesuvius right now, but that is what's so concerning on the other hand. And Campi Flegrei, there is every sign, guys, that magma is moving. But as it is with these sciences, it's not really advanced enough that they could do precise prediction. So right now it is currently not possible to say in which direction the magma is moving underneath. So below Campi Flegrei and Vesuvius, there is a reservoir, like a magma reservoir at a depth of around 8 or 9 kilometers, where the rising magma that comes from even deeper areas is collecting again. And there have been reports that it might already be as high as like 4 kilometers. So that would be really, really close. So the big question is now, will it continue to rise to the surface from that magma chamber? Yes or not? And nobody can answer that at the moment. But there are simulations out there how devastating a large eruption of Campi Flegrei would be. So it would not be like what we have seen in the past in Iceland, one volcano erupting and for a few weeks causing problems for air travel in Europe and for air travel to North America. So this would be really a global event that could lead to food shortages. Some scientists have said if there is a full supervolcano eruption, the world would, especially Europe, but the whole world might only have food for 74 days because, you need sunlight to grow. And imagine how big Europe is. So it's a major problem. So it's not something that can be completely ignored, or you can say, well, this is going to be very, very local. So in the past 15 years, Campi Flegrei, that's a caldera, the earth at Campi Flegrei has risen by almost 1 meter. And, it sounds like a massive uplift, but that alone is not a major warning signal to scientists yet. It is, of course, a lot, but past eruptions have shown that if it gets closer to the eruption, the elevation rates show like that it's elevating several meters within a few weeks or month, and then there is an eruption. So definitely the Italian volcanoes are in motion and nobody can see what's inside Campi Flegrei or underneath Campi Flegrei. So that's why it is currently very difficult to explore the Campi Flegrei. And the situation that we have now there, you can't drill in there to try to find out what's going on there and get samples. So that's not possible. The only thing that they can do right now is to interpret the data that they can gather and model the data from the stations that they have, the measuring stations on the surface. So in order to do this, basically what the scientists are doing, they create a digital twin of the volcano, of the caldera system, of the whole volcanic system, and then feed the computer the data that they have, and then they try to calculate various scenarios and try to find out what happens when. So the main question that they're focusing on right now is how long will it take until we will see the next volcanic eruption? So it is very, very hard to interpret all the signs and to accurately predict the situation. So if there was a major uplift all of a sudden, then of course it would be important to know how far the path for the magma is to the surface and how long it takes for magma to travel. How long does it need to travel a kilometer, for example, up to the surface? But, they don't really know anything, right? So they don't know, is it 2 kilometers away? Is it 8 kilometers away? So, but they are saying that they are currently collecting new data on this. And they're saying that they're confident that they will have an answer to that very, very soon. And that would definitely be helpful already, guys. And so just on February 17th, there was a magnitude 3.0 earthquake at Campi Flegrei, but that was just the big one. There was a series of earthquakes, so 17 tremors in total, and many of them after midnight, so in the dark. So the strongest ones were 3.0 and 2.7. So something is going on. The magnitude 2.7 earthquake was localized in the Gulf of Pozzuli, the small fishing town. And the other epicenter was near the city's cemetery. That's roughly like 2 kilometers away from there. So how deep was the earthquakes? So that is what is of more interest, because there were basically at a border where there's softer deposits in the Earth's crust. So that's why these earthquakes could be accompanied by crack formation along these fault zones. And these cracks are induced by the increasing pressure that's coming from below. The earthquakes were in the border area between the more stable rock formation and the rock layers that would keep the magma inside, and the softer deposits within the hydrothermal system of the crust. So this is what the scientists are looking at right now, and they're trying to find out, what does it really mean? Is it gassing? Is magma coming up? Will there be more like cracks opening? So we will have to wait and see what's going on. And guys, of course, I will keep you updated about this. And so if you made it that far to the end of the video, it would be awesome, guys, if you could leave this video a like. And if you're new here, I'd love to have you as a subscriber so that we can meet every day. I'm releasing videos every day, and we can have our morning coffee together like I'm having it with a lot of you guys. So good morning to the ones that start your day with my videos. And speaking of coffee, guys, thank you so much for supporting me on my buymeacoffee.com site, for buying me the coffees there, for buying me the supers there. It really, really helps a lot. And I hope to see you very, very soon with another update. There's more Grindavik updates, so there's nothing major happening there right now, but I'll keep you updated about that for sure. So check out my playlists on my channel. Maybe you find something that is of interest about the Titan submersible tragedy, about what's going on in Grindavik in Iceland right now, and of course Campi Flegrei and some other stuff as well. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and I hope to see you very, very soon. Thank you so much. Bye bye.